And hello, everybody, and welcome to the Paranormal Guys. We are live tonight on Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, and I don't know, Kick, LinkedIn, Trovo. We're kind of all over the place. And I do have a big announcement tonight. Not only are we live currently on, hello, Brenda. Not only are we live currently right now on Yergz Radio, you can go check us out there if you want to go to Yergz Radio, YERGZ radio.com. We're live on Rainbow Radio as well, but we have just recently added a new radio network. Internet radio is the way to go, and we will be on the Bigfoot Radio Internet Radio Network. Actually, starting this week, we're Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern. So go check us out there. And we are also still live, or not live, replayed on WRFN, Radio Free Nashville. Saturday nights, make sure to go check out them and support them. We are no longer on WDJY at this time, but we are still on Radio Fairfax. And I think that's it. No, we're still in New Mexico and California. So we got quite a few people in the chat tonight. Hello, everybody. Let me get this out of the way. We have a great guest tonight. He was on our New Year's show, and we loved him so much we brought him back. We suckered him back in. Mark is from Australia. He's a hypnotist, and yeah, I know. I had to clean up. I came to Tennessee to visit Mom, and she kind of gave me an ultimatum. So yeah, I had to get a little cleaned up there, but don't worry, it'll grow back. Hello, Chris. Welcome. Everybody, before Chris yells at me, please remember to hit that thumbs up button, like, follow, share, and subscribe. So yeah, I don't know if I said it or not, but I'm in Knoxville helping out family with some stuff. So I'm up here. If everything looks a little bit different, sounds a little bit different, that is why. And Cheyenne, last I heard, was stuck in a ditch somewhere in the middle of West Virginia. Prayers go out to Amanda and her family. Needed her tonight, so family first. She is with them. And Aaron is telling cops where to go. So it's just going to be me for a little while. So we'll see how it goes. But we got Mark in here. Let me bring Mark in here. I'm talking too much. Mark, hello, sir. How are you?
Hello, Glenn. Happy New Year to you again. Thank you so much for bringing me back on, or enticing me back on.
Well, we suckered you back on. So hello, Denise. Welcome. Well, in case everybody missed our New Year's show, tell everybody a little about yourself.
Sure.
And your hidden talents. Are they
hidden talents? You really want me to say my hidden talents on this screen? I don't think so.
I'm afraid you'll do this, and I'll be like clucking like a chicken or something. So.
Yeah, I'm actually a hypnotist of 22 years. My life completely changed. I turned my life around completely. When I was a kid, I grew up in a one-parent family, domestic violence, children's homes. Detention center, which is obviously young offenders prison. That was for being a huge car thief and just I was absolutely terrible, complete street rogue, and hence the name, the Rogue Hypnotist. I then turned my life around, and for the last 22 years, I've been a hypnotist helping hundreds and hundreds of other people to better their lives. And I perform shows to, from hundreds to thousands of people at a time. And I love seeing people laugh. I mean, it's to me, it's again, laughter is the greatest medicine. It's that old saying, isn't it? And it's so true. You get people walking out of a show just, saying how they haven't laughed for years or haven't laughed for months or weeks, and they feel so happy. It's and I love seeing that. So I love doing things like this because I get the word of hypnosis out there, and I've helped people obviously with the normal things like sleep issues, stop smoking, lose weight, fears, phobias, self-worth, self-pride, many other issues as well. So I've got the best of both worlds, and I now live in Australia. I'm from London originally. I moved to Australia 23 years ago and absolutely love it. I'm very, very blessed. It's the most incredible country, and I have 4 beautiful children, and I'm from a place called the Gold Coast in Australia. And I suppose it's very similar to, I'd imagine, Miami. I've sort of watched many things about Miami. Very similar, not the same. Miami's, probably a lot wealthier. But the Gold Coast is great. I love the Gold Coast. And again, I believe this is what's helped me turn my life around more than anything else, learning about the mind and hypnosis. And, you know, I really believe that. So I love coming on podcasts like this to tell other people about it.
Well,
End of thought. Thank you very much.
Oh, we're so glad you're here. I was going to ask, what's the weather there? Most of the United States currently is either under snow or freezing.
Okay, today it's been lots of rain, thunder and lightning, but the lightning seems to have stopped, although the clouds are quite black. But you know what, Glenn? I always say to people, it's really bizarre. If you, again, how the mind thinks, if you look above those black clouds that are outside, it's the bluest of blue sky. Yeah, so we can look at things, we can look at the sky and go, oh, fucking hell, it's raining again, it's pouring, a thunder and lightning, or we can look at it and go, above those clouds is the bluest of blue sky. They're the real riches. And I think I might have said this to you before, you know, that's how the mind works. So whatever we tell ourselves, we've got to be careful because we're listening. So if we keep saying to ourselves daily, oh, it's shit weather, it's terrible weather, you know, it's not this, the mind listens and it takes it on board. And then obviously the mind controls the body and the emotions and the feelings. And that's what the mind has done for me. Phenomenal things. So I now look at the real riches in life, whereas when I was a kid, I didn't. You know, I had not a great upbringing, and we had nothing growing up. And like I say, many issues that we had growing up, but I now look at things so differently. I look at the riches, you know, you and I are on here. Look at this. We can see each other. We can hear each other. It's the most beautiful thing. They're the real riches. Yeah, that's riches to me. So that's how I look at life now compared to how I used to. I used to be a hypochondriac when I was a kid because I just wanted that wrong attention. But now, since changing this and my mindset, I now look at things so differently. It's incredible. So I hope this
intent. It's intent. That self-talk is intent, and you can manifest so much too. So,
absolutely.
It's unbelievable some of the things you can do. Even the government's proven that the mind is so powerful. Things that you can do. You don't have to be the rocket scientist that knows how to put the ship on Mars, but in here, you, like you said, you're wealthy and you're your own person, your own individual.
Yeah.
So yeah,
that's it. I think we might have said this before. You know, one of those things, Glenn. I say to many of my clients, don't take a bad 5 minutes and milk it. So many people take a bad 5 minutes and they milk it for days, weeks, months, years, their whole life. And that's why they've got a shit life, because they milk the negatives. Start looking at things positively, and I promise you, your life will turn around. There's no ifs and no buts about it. And that costs you nothing to do that. It truly costs you nothing, because it's your mind and your mindset. And when you start, sometimes it takes a while, because so many people are so used to talking negatively to themselves. And that's the monkey chatter. Well, the problem being that the mind doesn't know if it's wrong or if it's right. It knows what you feed it. So it takes it on board. Well, if you start feeding it positives day after day after day after day after day, I say affirmations morning and night. No ifs and no buts. I say the morning and night. And that's helped me turn my life around. You know, affirmations, positive quotes. That's really what helped me. And then I started looking at the mind, and that's really helped me so much more. I've come on tenfold since then. So honestly, it's what you feed yourself.
Now, real quick, Denise says here in the chat, she says she's never been hypnotized. They tried for smoking, but it didn't work. So
yeah, okay. And the thing is, Denise, it's like I always say to people, Denise, and this is, I've seen hundreds and helped hundreds of people stop smoking. It may not be that the hypnosis didn't work. It could be you just weren't ready at the time. I used to be a 30-a-day smoker. I used to be on drugs. I've done many things. And I promise you, it's all to do with repetition. And it's to do with when you're ready, you'll stop smoking. There's no ifs and no buts about it. I've helped people, and one person started smoking again after 8 years, and she blamed the hypnosis. Of course, it's nothing to do with the hypnosis. It's because she chose to then go and have a cigarette. I had a lady phone me, and by the way, I tried 5 times to stop smoking. I tried the willpower method 5 times. It didn't work for me. That's before I knew about this. So unless you know, I promise you, have a look. Can I say a website on here, Glenn? Is that all right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay,
yes.
Brilliant. I've actually got a free stop smoking website. So I had people say to me, if you know, they used to say it on Facebook, well, if you really liked people, you would do stop smoking for nothing. Well, that's a shit thing to say, because I love people, and I actually do want to see people stop smoking, because I hate smoking, what it does to people. I don't hate smokers. I hate what smoking does to people. It controls every second of every minute of every hour of their day. Yeah. And I detest it. Honestly, I think it's disgusting. But like I said, it's not the smoker, it's the smoking. It's the tobacco companies, the government that makes trillions of dollars out of the taxes on it. So you can actually go to my website, and it's actually a free stop smoking website. And I think the one with the stop smoking is freestopsmokingonline.com. Feel free to go and take a look at it. It's free. It's a complete course on stopping smoking. Videos. There's my book. I've got a book. I wrote a book as well called Happy Non-Smoker Book. And it's fantastic, you know, and it's when you're ready. Always remember that. It's only when you're ready to stop. Because I had another lady phone me probably about 4 months ago. And she said to me, she said, I can't believe it. I'm only 1 week away from a year. She said, and I'm smoking again. I had a cigarette. And I said, okay. I said, let me ask you something. Why did you have it? She said, because I was at a party and I got drunk. I said, okay. And I've heard this many times from people.
Sure.
And I say to them, all right, if you're at the same party and you get drunk and somebody comes in, they says to you, here, listen, I've got a crack pipe in the car. Do you want to come and smoke it with me? What do you say to them? And most of them go, fucking no way, I wouldn't touch that stuff. Exactly. So you weren't drunk enough to say no to a crack pipe, but you're drunk enough to say no to a cigarette, say yes to a cigarette. So there's always an excuse. We always have reasons and excuses to carry on smoking unless we're ready. So please don't kick yourself. When you're ready to stop smoking, you will stop smoking. Absolutely promise you. That's fact. And I used to be a 30-a-day smoker. And that's probably why I really dislike smoking. So I know it controlled every minute of my life. Yeah. So I hope that helps. I've just answered that.
I smoked. I guess I probably wasn't that hard of a smoker. And then when I went to the fire academy and we had to run every day, that's when I quit smoking.
Yeah, that'd do it for you.
Yeah, I did dip for a little while, and I think the dipping was actually harder to quit than the smoking, because you had not just the nicotine, you had a flavor, you had, it was, I think it was harder. But yeah,
it's funny, Glenn, because I always say to people, and it is, you're absolutely correct. See, the problem being, most of the time it's a habit. None of us are born smokers. And I always say, if we were meant to smoke, we would have been born with chimneys on our head, so the smoke could come out the chimney. We weren't. So we're not born to smoke. We condition ourselves to smoke. And then we need to recondition ourselves to stop smoking. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
And
absolutely.
Anybody that ever wants to talk about smoking, I promise you, I studied it for so long before I started my stop smoking method. And it's actually called Simply Easy Method. And it's called the Happy Non-Smoker Program, because any smoker that truly wants to stop is happy that they've stopped. They become happy. Not every smoker. If anyone could do it, who's that? Ren Queen. Okay, so if anyone could do it, it would be Mark. Do what? Help you stop smoking, or?
She says she'd been hypnotized for fun, but
okay,
it didn't take. So
it didn't. No. Okay, Ren, I promise you. I went to Las Vegas many years ago, And the top hypnotists in Las Vegas, it took them 6 times to get me deep enough for their show. Hypnosis doesn't work on every single person for a show. It can work for almost anybody for therapy wise. And that's because all we need to do is get lulled into that nice, relaxed state. Once we're in that relaxed state and our brainwaves slow down, our mind, the monkey chatter mind, stops and just fades away. And that's when the unconscious mind takes on board everything that's been said by the hypnotist or by other people. And like Glenn said, governments use it. There was a movie, Glenn and I discussed this last time, and Aaron, I don't know if he remembers because he's seen a lot of people since then, but there was a movie many, many years ago called The Manchurian Candidate. Amazing movie. However, they do say that it was actually true. It's based on true stories where government soldiers, top government soldiers, were hypnotized to do certain things to other soldiers. And it was an incredible movie. If you ever get a chance to watch it, please, because you'll see the mind is phenomenal. And that's why I always say to people, in the wrong hands, it's not good. In the right hands, it's fantastic. There's a guy called Saran. Again, we did discuss this before, Glenn. I don't know if you remember, but Saran was accused of killing one of the Kennedys, I believe, and he's still in prison now. But he says, and I could believe it because, like I say, I've been a hypnotist for 22 years, and this is why I don't like to train just anybody, because he says that he was hypnotized to forget that he was hypnotized after he shot whoever it was that he shot at the time. And then, so he was hypnotized to shoot them, and then hypnotized to forget that he'd been hypnotized to shoot them. And if that makes sense, hopefully it does, because it's absolutely true. Look, hypnosis is incredible. Honestly, it's absolutely amazing. I once did not just once, but I remember this particular time. I did a show on a mining camp where miners go and obviously they drill and everything in these mining camps underground, and there was a few thousand of them on this particular camp. And I finished the show, and I sort of hung around. I always hang around to speak to people because they're very intrigued by hypnosis. So I always hang around to talk to them. And these two guys come up to me and they went, "Here, listen, did you train that stuff?" And I went, yeah, I do train. I said, I do obviously a lot of checking first to who I'm training. And they went, fuck. This was their words, not mine, by the way. They went, fucking hell, we could fucking use that to get women and do that. And I went, that's it. I said, that's why I wouldn't train you, you see. I said, that's why they actually used the R word with an E on the end. Yeah. So if you get, we could do that to women. I went, no. I said, there you go. I said, that's why I won't train anybody.
Yeah.
Because in the wrong hands, it's so dangerous. And you've got to understand 5 to 15% of the nation are highly suggestible. So they could be hypnotized once on the first go, that percentage of people. Everybody else, like Ren and a couple of others, sometimes it takes a few more times. And like I said, it took me 6 times by Las Vegas's best of the best. And even then, I wasn't deep. It doesn't happen with everybody. Not everybody goes deep, but in the wrong hands, it can be not very good. In fact, dangerous in the wrong hands.
Sure.
Yeah.
How do you, I mean, I don't know how I want to present this question, but how do you determine a person is capable of being hypnotized or
hypnotizable? Yeah. Okay. So hypnotize. Yeah. So I do a few tests. So mini tests. Most of the time, Glenn, again, we discussed this before. A lot of the time you get soldiers, policemen and women, firemen and women, ambulance men and women, people that are used to taking commands. So because hypnosis is looked at as suggestions or commands, they're very open to that. Their mind's very open because they're so used to taking commands. So they're very easy to hypnotize. Other people, a lot of the time you get your very introvert people that are quite easily hypnotized because they're it's amazing. Some people are so scared of hypnosis. And I had a guy once at a show, and I didn't know how scared he was, but he kept saying to the woman, "I'm not getting up on stage. I'm not getting up on stage." I was there a bit early, so I heard him saying it to the organizer, and he said, "I'm not getting up on stage." He said, "I'm petrified of that stuff." And as I walked out, he just wouldn't look at me, absolutely petrified. And then he looked at me once, and I just went, "You okay?" And he went, "Yeah, but I don't believe in it." I said, "How much don't you believe in it?" He said, "I don't believe it." I said, "Sleep." And he went. So that's because he was so highly charged that he was petrified of this thing. And that the moment I said the word sleep, his mind went, "This guy's hypnotized me." And he went like that. So some people are so highly suggestible. And especially if they're scared, that you just go to sleep or do certain things, and they'll go, and they truly fall into a deep sleep.
Wow.
Yeah, it's amazing.
You know, I don't think I told you this on the first show, but growing up as a child, I was always told that you don't do that because the devil's going to come into your mind, that Satan will jump in there and you'll be possessed. I don't know what the hell they were talking,
Yeah.
but that's what I grew up with. And so that was always kind of, I won't say it was a fear, but it was always one of those things in the back of my head. Well, you can't open your mind up to those things. I've grown up since then, but that was one of the things that I remember real well.
Have you though, Glenn? Have you really grown up since then? Come on.
Well, I've grown out more than up, but yeah.
Yeah, but it's absolutely true. Many people still look at it as a cult, or they look at it as mind control. That's absolute rubbish. I promise you that's absolute rubbish. I always say hypnosis is like meditation with a positive end result. So it's like meditation with suggestions from the hypnotist. Like, you're going deeper and deeper. You're feeling absolutely wonderful. You feel alert, focused. It's just suggestion, good suggestions. Like I say, in the wrong hands, they could use negative suggestions. And that's the problem. That's the difference. You've got the negative and the positive hypnotists, or the bad ones and the good ones. I've been doing this 22 years. And as I said to you before, I don't have a blemish on my name because I never step over that line. And I do 3 types of shows. I see lots and lots of clients. 75% of my clients are women. I see, when I do a show, I've got a family show, an adult show, and a corporate show. I never make anyone strip in any shows. I never make anyone take their clothes off. No, seriously, because there's hypnotists that do. I don't like that. Yeah, I don't like that. I think that's going a bit over the line. That's crossing that line. Sure. And I do some naughty things in the show, but they're innuendos. And that's the difference. There's innuendos because we all use our imagination. We all picture what we're doing. It's like if I say to you now and your listeners, whatever you do, don't think of a blue monkey in a pink tree. Just don't think of a blue monkey in a pink tree. Whatever you do, don't think of that blue monkey in a pink tree. What's everyone thinking about? A blue monkey in a pink tree. Because we everything we do is based around pictures. Everything we think of. If I say to you, or if your mum says to you, Glenn, look, Glenn, I need to go and get some milk later. I need some bread, but I need that French stick bread, instantly you picture the milk and the bread that you're going to get. We all work on pictures. Everything we do in life, daily life, is worked on pictures. So when we, in hypnosis, when we get you to picture positives about your life rather than negatives, and I do a lot of hypnosis online as well with people, as in therapy, because we can do it online. It's not something that can't be done online because, like I said, there's no magic to it. It's like a recipe. When you bake a cake, you've got your eggs, you've got your sugar, you've got your whatever you use. And hypnosis is the same. We've got, the pre-talk, we've got the induction, we've got the deepener, we've got the script, we've got the affirmations, we've got the awakener. So we've got all these things like a recipe of a cake. And that's what happens with the mind. So once we're in that nice, relaxed state, when we start putting positives in that person's mind, instead of negatives, that's when they start to turn their life around. And through repetition, because everything's repetition, through repetition, that's when we start getting more and more positive and thinking differently. And it's all these wonderful things, but there's no magic about hypnosis. Anyone could train to be a hypnotist, but I will tell you, if you're going to train to be a hypnotist, be a good one. Have integrity, ethics, morals, values, and after 22 years, like myself, you'll have a good name for yourself.
Yeah.
And
Ross is asking, Donald Trump often speaks in threes. Is he using a type of suggestion?
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
Military actually trains that one.
Of course.
Yes. It's a military trick. Yeah.
That's it. Well, that's what I said, Glenn. If you look at that movie, The Manchurian Candidate, have a look at that movie and you'll see everything we do is, I say things in three, so trilogy. So I might say, go deeper, deeper, deeper. Well, I just said 3 times, go deeper, deeper, deeper. Or I might say, sleep, sleep, sleep. Yeah, 3 times. And that's what happens. So we do it in trilogies. It's called a trilogy. And you'll find that most hypnotists actually use that as a trilogy. So, that suggestion, if it's like any ads that we see. This is why smokers, especially our age, many smokers, they've been trapped in this smoking trap for years, because years ago, if you remember years ago, through repetition, we would drive along the motorway and our peripheral vision used to pick up the big billboards. And on the billboards was smoking, Marlboro, Benton and Hedges, Rothmans, this. So our mind was taking it on board without us even knowing, because the peripheral vision was picking it up and the unconscious mind was absorbing it. Racetracks, you've got some great racetracks out there, but years ago, you think of all the cars that used to just go around the track time after time after time after time after time, repetition, repetition, repetition. What were those cars dressed up as? Cigarette packets, Rothmans, Marlboro, this. And obviously through repetition from the cars go, there you go, there you go. Through repetition, it goes in here. So it keeps you in that trap. That's hence why so many of the supermarkets and things, you look at any supermarket, they spend millions every year with advertising companies putting things on certain shelves. And the way it's laid out, and the music in the supermarket, and all these other things, the smells, this. Many real estate agents, they use things like that. You'll walk into a house to buy and they'll have fresh bread in a bread maker or something. There's many, many tricks to get the mind thinking differently. And when you touch on all the senses, which is hypnosis, people will go into hypnosis. There's certain scripts and things that we might use as a hypnotist, where we might say, I don't know, if you're laying on the beach, imagine yourself laying on the beach, because not everyone can picture things. But if I say, some people will say, if I close my eyes, I can't picture it. That's fine, because not everyone can. And I'm one of those that can't, but I can imagine what it would be like if I could picture it. So I always say imagine. So if you imagine yourself laying on a beach, if you imagine the sun underneath your body, if you imagine the sun on your face, if you imagine the sun on your legs, not too hot, just warm, just right. Imagine the sand beneath your body. Imagine the sand in between your toes, under your feet, not too hot, just warm, just right. Imagine the smell of the ocean. Imagine the taste of the salt in the air. What you're doing is covering all 5 senses. Imagine the seagulls talking to each other, singing a song above you. I've just covered all the 5 senses. Yeah. And that's what you need, because once you cover the 5 senses, again, that's the recipe. It's all part of the recipe. So once you cover those senses, that's when people allow themselves to drift into that nice trance state. So it's all about a recipe. It really is. And like I say, all those people that say they can't be hypnotized, I promise you can, but it doesn't work on the first go every time.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. In any of your, and I don't want you to do, you're obviously in another country, so you're further away, that you might not give away any secrets, but any of your clients, have you ever had them hypnotized and have encounters with extraterrestrials or cryptids or anything paranormal? Have you ever experienced anything like that?
Yeah, I did. I don't know if you'd look at it as paranormal, but like I said to you before, Glenn, we do a thing called past life regression,
Mm-hmm.
and I did one, and I hope your listeners will really appreciate this one because it was very powerful. I've done quite a few for past life regression, but this one in particular was amazing. So I was doing a course, I was running a course, and I had loads of people in the room, and they said, "Oh, can we cover past life?" And I don't normally do a lot of past life in training because not everybody uses it. There's lots of courses out there you can learn it, and so I don't cover it too much in training. And they kept going, "Oh, just do one, just." So I said, "Okay, I'll hypnotize somebody and we'll do a past life regression." And this particular lady, she had things, I think they were called goiters or something in her throat for
Mm-hmm.
ages, for years. And she was having real problems with them, and real problems sort of breathing sometimes properly, and swallowing and stuff like that. And she was very open to hypnosis, so we put her into a nice relaxed state, and I took her back along her timeline, because we've all got a timeline. We've got a timeline that's the past, present, and our future. And I took back along the timeline on her timeline, and nothing came up for her. So I took her back into her past life, and as we went back into her past life, she started saying, "I'm a witch." She said, "I'm a witch." So she was a witch in her past life. So this is the next bit, is the most fascinating thing. So she said, "I'm a witch." She went, "Oh my," she said, "Oh my God, they're going to hang me. They're going to hang me for being a witch." So what it was, the noose around her neck, because she was a witch in her past life, the noose around her neck was what was, restricting her. So she couldn't swallow properly, couldn't do. Yeah, it was amazing. So we worked on that and brought her back to today, back to now, back to herself, and it had eased it. So we could have done a lot more work with her, but she lived in a completely different town, and she never sort of followed it up. But it eased it. It didn't completely take it away, but it eased it. So that was one of the most fascinating ones to me. So she was being hanged because she was a witch in her past life, and hence the noose obviously was, she couldn't swallow properly, and it was fascinating. So that was one of the most fascinating ones. And I think we discussed this briefly before as well. It was so bizarre. Years ago when I first started, I'd look at people and I'd say to them, "Okay, look into my eyes and don't look away." This is how I hypnotize some of the people. And especially when I first started, I'd say, "Look into my eyes, don't look away." And they would look into my eyes and keep looking. And I would do the suggestions and say, "Don't look away, just keep looking into my eyes, blah, blah." Then I realized that all of a sudden, the person I was looking at, their face would morph into this really old person. And I would sit there and I'd be saying to myself, "Fucking hell, what's going on?" Their whole face would morph into this old person. And it happened every time. So if I said to people, and I didn't use it every single time with people, the eye stare, but I used it on a lot of people, and I noticed every person I used it on, I would look at them and all of a sudden their face would change and into this really old person. And these people could have been 20, 30, 40. And then they would morph into this really sort of 70, 80, 90-year-old. And it didn't happen with every single person. And all I can think of is it didn't happen to those that weren't going to live to a ripe old age. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. That to me was fascinating. I was at first, I must say, I was shitting myself because it was such a scary thing to me, because I couldn't believe that their face was morphing into this really old person. And it just petrified me, I must say. But then I got used to it, and it was phenomenal. I stopped doing it because it was a little bit, when I started looking at them and seeing that they weren't changing, I then started thinking differently about them. I'd think to myself, "Oh my God, they may not live to be an old person." and they're telling me all these dreams and goals of their future, but maybe they're not going to get there. And it was really bizarre. So I stopped doing the eye stare, probably after about 5 years, and I stopped doing it. And like I said, I've been doing this 22 years, but yeah, it was pretty spooky.
I was going to say, it'd have to be pretty heavy on you as well.
I used to, when I first started, I used to take everyone's problems on board. You know, if somebody came in to see me and they'd been abused, I mean, I grew up with domestic violence and, you know, like I say, abused in children's homes, and then obviously detention, sent to young offenders prison. And because I grew up in a rough area, you know, there was always abuse going on somewhere, mental, physical. And so it wasn't nice. So when I used to see some people come in and they were here for, you know, maybe abuse, or for really deep issues, I would actually feel it and I could relate to them. That's the thing. I can relate to nearly all of my clients, whatever they've been through. You know, I've done the drugs. I've been a big car thief. I've done the young offenders prison. I've done the children's home. I've grown up with domestic violence. I've done all these things. I've been the smoker. I've been 16 kilos heavier than what I am now. I've been the poorest of poor people, where we couldn't even afford, you know, proper school shoes and things like that. You know, the school shoes had holes. So I've really been to the bottom. And so I could relate to everyone that comes to see me as a client. And some of them I used to take on board. Some people go, oh, that's, you know, you shouldn't be allowed to do that. But I'm going to tell you a story about this because it got to me. I actually saw, you know, I've seen some clients, and I've got children, and some of my, you know, my ex-wives have used my children as pawns in the relationship breakup, which I must say, whether it's the male or the female using the kids but it's disgusting. And, you know, it shouldn't be done. I think it's absolutely horrendous that anyone uses the kids as pawns, but it happens. Anyway, so I had a couple of clients, and they started telling me about, you know, how they were doing this with the ex-husband this, and I'm not allowing them to see the child. And I said to the client, I can't see you then. I can't see you. It's affecting me, what you're saying to me, because it's triggering me. So I stopped seeing them. And, you know, some people will go, well, that's, you know, it's discrimination. You can't do. I fucking can. I won't see anyone if I don't want to see them. That's how I look at it. Don't tell me. So, absolutely. Yeah. So, you know, that really triggered me. So you do take certain things on board. So after a while, I started putting up a shield. And I could talk to you about anything now, and I've got that shield up. So I don't take it on board anymore. Whereas initially when I first started, yeah, absolutely, you do take a lot on board. And that's where many hypnotherapists, psychologists, counselors, they have to build themselves that wall, that shield, because otherwise they're going to take so much on board.
I agree. And it's the same as a paramedic. I mean, you see some pretty horrible things. Now, there is that one thing one day that may get to you, but you know, for the most part, when you start out, it's like you're so impressionable. It's so fresh and new to you. And then it's almost like it's second nature, and you just start.
Yeah.
But I don't know. But Ross asked, did you ever warn any of the subjects that you feel the lack of change is because of premature death?
No, definitely not. No, I couldn't do that, because could you imagine, Ross, if you came to me and I said that to you, if I said to you, listen, Ross, I know you're only 30 years old, but I can't see you living over 40. You'd go, what the fuck? Thanks for the session. I'm gone. You know, you couldn't. No, I could never do that. I think that would be really very inappropriate for me to do that. And I just wouldn't. The thing is, Ross, what we do as humans, we take things on board so much. And when we take, oh, really? Oh, that's not so good. Okay.
He's pretty old, though, so I think he must have made it past.
Oh, that's good then. Well, and that's the thing. We do take things on board. And there was an experiment, and I'm sure it's been used many times. And the experiment was, Ross, and Glenn, you've probably heard of this experiment. They got an office worker. Okay, so you've got the receptionist sitting behind the reception desk, and the experiment was that 3 people would walk in at separate times, and the receptionist was normally a happy, bubbly young lady, and so anyone that walked in, she'd greet them with a big smile. Hi, how are you? They did the experiment. So the first person walked in, and they went, "Morning, Tracy," or whatever her name was, Frida, Tracy, whatever her name was. And they said, "Morning, Tracy. Oh, you all right?" And she went, "Yeah, I'm fine." And they went, "Oh, you don't look too good." And she'd go, "Oh, no, I'm fine." And see, he's planted the seed.
Yes.
She's now thinking, hang on a second. So anyway, so he walks off, and then maybe 20 minutes, half an hour later, the next person walks in. This was an experiment, remember? The next person walks in, and the next person says, "Morning, Tracy." And Tracy says, "Morning, morning." Not the happy bubbly, "Yeah, morning, morning." And they go, "Oh, you all right, Tracy?" "Yeah, why?" "Oh, you just look a bit peaky, a bit pale. Are you okay?" "Yeah, I'm fine." But then obviously now they've planted the seed, and now they're watering the seed. So by the time the third person came in, "Morning, Tracy." "Morning." "Morning." "Oh, Tracy, are you okay? You really don't look too well." By this time, she's not looking well because she's not feeling well. And in the end, she actually wanted to go home. But then they told her it was an experiment. It's a really well-known experiment, but that's what happens. So when we plant things in our mind, so if I kept saying to these people, "Listen, I know you're only 20 or 30, but I can't see you living to the age of 50 or 60, to be honest, because I've just seen you and your face hasn't morphed." I'm planting a seed. That's not a good seed to plant. So no, I haven't actually told anyone that.
Yeah. Well, even they teach you as a paramedic, if you have somebody and they look like shit and you know they're going to die, you don't tell them.
No, exactly.
You got about 20 minutes. Yeah, you don't do that. Yeah.
Exactly.
"Oh, you look fine. Oh, never mind those missing arms and legs. You walk it off."
Oh, don't. Yeah, I know. See, exactly. Can you imagine? And again, thanks for your service. Thanks for anyone that's in that field, and the police, the armed forces, etc. But you're right. If somebody said to them, your arms are falling off, but it looks like you're going to die, 15 minutes, they'd be counting that 15 minutes. They'd be petrified. So I totally understand. What does that one say? When I was young, my aunt visited.
Yes, this is Ross again. He said, when I was young, my aunt visited us after a session with a psychic. She was told, long story short, her nephew was going to work for the government and die a violent death. And well, Ross just retired from the U.S. Secret Service, so maybe it was another nephew. I don't know.
Yeah, okay. It's funny because talking to psychics, we had this discussion before, me, you, and Erin, Glenn, about psychics and things. I've got lots of friends that are psychics. However, what you've got to and mediums and things, what people don't understand is that many people take on board what that psychic tells them. You're going to meet this man. He's tall, dark, handsome. You're going to meet him. You're going to marry him. Well, sometimes these psychic mediums aren't real psychic mediums. They're cold readers. And however, that doesn't stop people from taking that on board. And, your husband's having an affair, or your wife's having an affair, or, your child's going to be really unwell. And the trouble is, if the wrong psychic or medium says things like that, and that person that's sitting opposite them is very susceptible and suggestible, they're going to take all that on board and they're going to stew on that. And, whether it could be 10, 20 years time, and this lady might have had 3 divorces by then, and then she meets a tall, dark, handsome man in 10, 20, 30 years time. And she goes to her friends, "I went to a psychic once. They told me this was going to happen." They take it on board so much. And that's the problem with some psychics. And like I say, I've got many friends that are psychics and mediums, and they're great people. One of them is exceptional, absolutely amazing. And some of them aren't. You know, I had a medium say to me, look, can we do a joint venture together? And, you know, you do your show and I do mine, and we do this like combined thing. And I said, okay, well, I'll come and watch you do your mediumship at one of your shows. And then we go. And she turned out to be a complete cold reader and taking people's money in her show. And I just went, no, we definitely can't do anything together. You know, some people train to be a medium or a psychic, and some people have got it. They're natural. You know, they've got the sixth senses. They're absolutely natural. And some train to be that way. And there's a big difference, let me tell you, big difference. So I do understand what you're saying about psychics and how certain people take things on board. And that's absolutely true. I've seen it so many times. So just be careful if you're a psychic or a medium, what you say to people.
Well, speaking of which, Denise says that she got a card reading the other day and was told, you've had your 9 lives, you're done. So I thought, well, that's what you think.
Oh, okay. So they obviously thought you were a cat. So, wow. Maybe you went to the wrong sort of card reader. So, see, some of those, can you have someone to be more open to the other side? Absolutely. I think the other side is one of those things where you've, you either believe in it or you don't. And I always say to people, you can't force anyone to believe in it. I truly don't believe. You can try and convince them by coming up with facts, but you can't force anyone to do it. It's like if I said to Glenn, you know, if Glenn didn't want a cigarette, for instance, and I kept saying to him, go on, have one, stop being a pussy, just have a cigarette. He'd push back. He'd go, I don't think so. I don't smoke. It's disgusting. Go on, have one, Glenn. Don't be such a pussy. No, I'm not having one. And he'd push back. So he wouldn't believe that he needed one, and he's not going to have one. You know, that's his stubbornness. No, I'm not having one, full stop. That's how some people are with the other side. I don't believe in the other side. You can't convince me no matter what. Yeah, but I saw somebody die and they went to the other side and then came back and told us about it. I don't believe it. That's what some people would say. So you really can't force people into certain things. No, I don't believe that. And if you do, then there's something wrong with you rather than the other person if you try and force somebody into something, because I don't believe in that. Sure. Yeah, I believe in the other side. I don't believe in forcing them into it, is what I mean.
Yeah, no, that's what I was going to get at. I'm sure you believe in the other side. What about a topic that's been in the headlines actually since you and I have been had our show, the UFOs, the drones and stuff.
Yeah, how bizarre are they?
You think it's our government?
I find it fascinating.
I do too.
I do. It's really bizarre, that one, isn't it? Because how can they not know? America's a phenomenal country. We're probably the best of the best of the best when it comes to anything like that. And they're saying they don't know what it is. That just doesn't make sense to me.
I agree.
Yeah,
well,
really
I
doesn't.
mean, but then again, we did have a dumbass in charge that needed to depends for 4 years. So, but
yeah, Trump will soon find out what it was. Yeah.
I think that somebody in the military probably knew, but
they must have, Glenn.
Yeah, I still have a hard time believing that it would be. I don't think it was an adversary, an alien maybe, but not an adversary. I think we know what it is, whether it's, I don't know, ET or China or I think if it was an enemy, we would probably, because Americans, that's what we like to do. We like to blow shit up. So I think we would have probably blown one up to see.
That's true. Very true.
Well, if they'd flown over the South, we'd be like, I get that some bitch. So, I think that, we probably know what it is, but I believe it's probably government. But, I don't know if there's a Dr. Stephen Greer. I don't know if you've ever heard of him.
No.
He is a leading UFO expert, and he keeps talking about how we're about to have this great awakening and the aliens are going to come out and they're going to reveal all the stuff we know. He's really smart. He's a trauma surgeon. So he's got his stuff and his hands together. but I don't know if I believe the bag of shit he's selling. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm not saying. I think I would be a fool, or anybody would be a fool, if you go out and you just look up and you see all these stars. This is just what you can see with the naked eye. I mean, we have telescopes out there, and there's so much more. I think we would be fools. This is just my opinion, to believe that we're alone. You know, and if there is a supreme being, maybe we're just one of the different fish in his fish tank. Maybe he likes sharks in another tank, or he likes little green, you know. So I don't know about. I personally don't think we're alone in the bigger picture, but flying over Jersey, I'm kind of thinking that's us. So
yeah, I do agree with that one. I think I agree with you that we'd be foolish to think there's nobody else out there, because of course there is. We can't be the only planet that's got people or beings on there. There's absolutely no way, not out of all the millions and millions of planets out there. But I don't think, I agree with you. I don't think they would show themselves as a drone. I just think they would be, it's got to be something to do with government, surely. I mean, and sorry, I was laughing just now when you said something, Glenn, because I sat and watched the Hillbilly Elegy or something the other night, you know, J.D. Vance movie. I love that movie. Absolutely, that man is phenomenal. Well, I actually watched the movie and I loved it, but the hillbilly bit, you made me laugh, and you say, yeah, we shoot that fucker down, and so you know, that's I can imagine them talking like that. That's it, exactly. And it just made me think of that. So but I do agree with you. It's got to be the government. It can't, surely it can't be anything else. And the Chinese balloon that was over the US years ago, whenever it was, you know, they kept saying it's, you know, it's what they say, it was something, but
a weather balloon or something.
Oh, that's it, weather balloon. Yeah,
we should have shot that shit down. So.
That's it, absolutely. Well, they did in the end, didn't they? Didn't they? I think they shot it down in the end. Yeah, and I think the drones, all of a sudden, Trump's in, and these drones have stopped, haven't they?
I don't know if they've stopped or the media stopped talking about them. I don't know which it is.
Yeah, okay.
So, because right now it is so funny. It's like a switch has been flipped with the Trump thing, and I don't normally get political, but it's almost like they hated him. They wanted to kill him. They wanted to bankrupt him. They wanted to imprison him. And now they love him. It's like a switch has been flipped. I don't know if it's a kiss the ring type of thing or what it is, but now I will say, and I know Ross is going to disagree with me, but I will say, I think from the previous version, I think this is a different version of Trump. I think he's grown as a politician and maybe a human being, because I think he was put through a lot. I'm not going to buy into the conspiracy that they did all that to him. I mean, I got an opinion, but I think he's a changed person. I think he's a different person, and hopefully, I don't have any around here, but knock on wood, will be a better place. You know, I mean, but all we can do as Americans is once every 4 years go cast our vote and then bitch about it. I mean, that's what we do. So.
That's it. Right, Ross, your turn.
Yeah. Oh, don't worry. He'll get me. Don't worry. He'll get me. I love him to death, but he'll get me. But I mean, I think that's all we could do. Have you ever had have you ever opened your mind and had anything or any entity or anything come to you? Or
no, I haven't. I mean, I've seen ghosts. I've seen or spirits. I've seen spirits. I've seen, or I believe I've seen them. I've seen things like that. And years ago, I was diagnosed with a brain tumor many years ago, and it was on the pituitary gland. And it was really bizarre because all of a sudden they started me on these tablets, and this, whatever it was doing in there, all of a sudden my whole vision was like a fly. You know, when you see a fly and it looks like they're all squares and, you know, the flies, my vision was like that. And I started just really picturing strange things. So I suppose it was like It's probably a type of LSD tab that I took without knowing, to be honest. Maybe they slipped something into the tablets.
Did it work?
It did. They couldn't find the tumor years ago. They couldn't find it about 3 or 4 years ago, believe it or not. So
that's good.
But that was yeah, absolutely. And that's what I say. They're the real riches in life, Glenn. You know, the riches like that. So I that was weird though. You know, that was, it made me see all these different things, and so that was pretty bizarre. And like I say, I've seen spirits, and I've felt certain spirits. And I remember when my uncle died, and my uncle always used to say to me, "Son, you'll never get anywhere in life." It's he really didn't like my mum, because we grew up on housing projects, and he was really well spoken. He married my mum's sister, and really well spoken, and, you know, did well for himself, and all credit to him. And but he really didn't like us because we were the sort of bottom of the barrel. And so he used to really be quite sort of nasty, especially towards our mum. And he always used to say to me, "Son, you'll never get anywhere in life," you know, because I was a complete, absolute, utter shitbag of a road kid when I was young. And when he died, it's really bizarre. I walked into our house, me and my first wife, we walked into the house with our little boy, and this was our house. And all of a sudden, instantly, I felt this presence, this really freezing cold presence. And I knew it was him. And I just looked around and I said, "Yeah, I promise you, it was the most spooky." And I looked around and I went, "Topper, I know that's you." I said, "Fuck off, because we don't need you here." And you might hear me speaking a bit French, but like I say, I grew up in that environment, and it's just always stuck with me. And I have no problems people swearing around me, but it's done in a way that I truly mean, like, leave our house, go away, we don't really want you here. And all of a sudden, just like that, the whole house started warming up again. Gone. It was so bizarre. It was freezing cold, freezing. And then we lived in a really old Victorian apartment, me and my first wife. And the apartment was a really, really old Victorian house that had been converted into apartments. And we used to have a spirit in there, and the spirit would always just flash around in the apartment. So yeah, I've seen a few and felt a few, and yeah, it's bizarre. Not really keen on them, but there you go. Yeah. But do I believe there's the other side? I always say, you know, to people in my shows, if people don't want to come on stage and be hypnotized to be in the show, I always say to them, look, we're here once on this earth. That's it. You know, whether there's an afterlife or not, we're not going to know until we get there. So if there is an afterlife, we'll know when we get there. But at the moment you're here, come and have some fun. Enjoy yourself while you're on this earth. And I promise you, the amount of people that say to me after a show, "Do you know why I came up? Because you said those words." And they obviously reiterate to me what I said. And it's true. We're not going to know until we get there. So, you know, anyone that's been there and come back, I'd love to hear their stories.
I've had a few on the show, so yeah, I believe it.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah,
Mark, we've kept you about an hour already.
Wow.
I'm gonna. Yeah, I know it goes by. I'm gonna have you back. I love having you on the show because
thank you.
I learn something every time, and you make me feel. I mean, aside, you make me feel good, but you make me feel like there's more out there, and I like that. You keep
thank you.
You keep me thirsty, I guess is a good way of saying it. I want to know more. So
I actually enjoyed coming on here. Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you. You have a fascinating book. And we've talked about this before. I'm a firefighter, and you were a little bit of a firebug growing up, which is okay. You could have been a fireman in your past life. Who knows?
Yeah, absolutely. You never know. Or a little shitbag in my past life. Yeah.
Well, I think growing up a little,
probably more like
it. In time we all were at some point growing
absolutely.
up. So.
Yeah.
we grow out of it. Mark,
Yeah.
before you get out of here, tell everybody where they can go if they want to find you, get your services. Highly recommend your book is a free download. It's a great read. I don't know why you don't write more, but go ahead, tell everybody where they can find you.
Well, they can either go to get a free ebook version of my life story up until 2017. I've got part 2 coming out. I will bring out part 2 because a lot's happened since 2017. But just go to theroguehypnotist.com and you can download a free version. You can get the audio version. That's me speaking through the audio version. And you can also get a paperback version as well. It's a fascinating book, I promise you. And you'll be amazed at, what people can go through, what adversities they can go through and come out the other side by using this. And they can also go to hypnotist.com.au and that will lead them to other pages and things. So I hope, I really hope to come back on, Glenn, because I do enjoy myself with you, and Erin was fun last time, and hopefully we'll all get to do it again. So.
Oh yeah. Hopefully I could get all of my ladies on at the same time, and you can get one of them to cluck like a chicken or something. It'll probably be me. I'll have to go watch the show back to see what the hell I did. But
well, it's funny. It's funny you say that, because I was watching you when I was talking about just imagine your eyes closing and just hear the word sleep, and I could see you going.
Yeah. Well, I think I've told you I do the Monroe Gateway at night a lot of times to help myself get to sleep, and so that's part of it. You picture you go to your happy place or wherever, you lock yourself in, and then you do the sound. You start doing the meditation, and I can feel and you can get some great sleep that way. But that and CPAP. Once they give me a CPAP,
CPAP.
oh God,
oh yeah. I've got friends that had that, and it was amazing. It's changed their lives.
Almost every firefighter I know wears one at night.
Really?
I don't know why, but yeah, almost everyone. So yeah.
Wow, that's incredible. Oh, it's I've really, like I say, I've enjoyed it, and you're a great guy. The only thing is, obviously, if we do hypnotize you, then I'll be doing the show myself. So that wouldn't be good, because I'd have nobody asking me questions.
Yeah, somebody's got to push these buttons over here.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. Well, I had to get
Thank
Cheyenne.
you so much for
She wanted to be hypnotized and see if she could cluck like a chicken or something. And I wish she could have been, but we'll get you back. And I actually got some things I wanted to talk to you about off the show. I just haven't had time to get together, but I appreciate you, Mark. Thanks for coming
pleasure.
on. You are great. And
thank you.
Yeah, come back and see us. And I know
I
you're
look forward
15 hours. You're time traveler. You're 15 hours ahead of me. So
yeah. So there is an afterlife. Come back to 15 hours earlier.
That's right. Mark,
Thanks,
have
Glenn.
a great night. We will see you soon.
Thanks. I look forward to it. Thanks, mate.
Right.
See ya. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. That was great. I love Mark. Mark and I actually chat a lot on Facebook too. He's great. Hook up with him, download his book. If you don't learn something from it, it's going to be because you didn't read it properly. He's very educated, very well spoken, and he was a great guest. Now also we do two shows. We do 2 hours here. I'm running a little bit over, and I've seen that our second guest is backstage. The second guest, Bobby Blade, is a personal friend of Amanda's, and we said prayers out to Amanda and her family tonight. She needs them, so think of her right now. She couldn't be with us, but Bobby came on, and we're glad he came on. He is a professional. I'm not sure if he's retired or still wrestling, but let's find out. Bobby is backstage. Let's bring him out here. Bobby, welcome. I'm Glenn. We didn't get to meet. I know Amanda was supposed to be here, but welcome.
Hey, just let me introduce myself real quick in case you don't know who I am. I am the meanest, cheatingest, chokingest, eye-pokingest, crotch-kickingest, your mama stickingest, spitting on babies, smacking old ladies, one-man domestic disturbance, the man, the myth, the living legend, the true old-school icon, and the man you paid to see, Lone Wolf Bobby Blade.
How the hell are you, Bobby Blade? I love that.
I'm old and fat. That's about it, man. That's all I can say. Just old and fat. And the fatter I get, the happier I am, because that means I'm eating good food.
Hell yeah. But how long did it take you to practice to get that down pat, Bobby? I need to work on my
Did that
lines.
the first time. Did that the first time, actually. Yeah. I was in the ring one time, and I needed something to say to kill some time, so I just started rattling a bunch of stuff off my top of my head, and that's what came out. And actually, that has become my catchphrase now. I say it at the very beginning of every one of my promos and all that, and it the crowd seems to like it and all that. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. I love it. Sometimes you've got to have some charisma. So yeah. So
yeah.
She says you can disturb my domestic anytime. I'm not quite sure what she means.
That's great.
My chat sometimes is a little unusual, so just work with them. Bobby, are you still wrestling, or are you? I know you do commentary now.
Yeah, I wrestled from 1991, and I had my last match in 2018. I did take about a year off there because in 2014 I got a little burnout, so I just kind of left the wrestling business for a little bit, and I was intending on staying away completely. And then one of my friends passed away that was also a wrestler, and one of the local companies around it's about 20, 30 miles away. They were going to have a tribute show to him. And that was called Primetime Wrestling. And the guy's name was Jeff Vickers that passed away. And he's a longtime wrestler. He was around for about 30 years. And they were going to have a memorial show for him. And Larry D, who was the promoter for Primetime Wrestling, called me up and say, hey, we're going to have this memorial show for Jeff. Would you mind being a part of a battle royal? And I'm like, man, I'm kind of old now. I've already had my last match in 2014, so they put me, I said, sure, I'll do it for Jeff, in memory of Jeff. So they put me in this battle royal, which I don't know if you know anything about wrestling or if any of your listeners know anything about wrestling, but a battle royal is where there's like multiple people, in the ring at one time, and you're trying to throw each other over the top rope, and the last man standing wins. So I was a surprise entrant in that, and it went over so well, they just kept asking me to come back and wrestle with, the younger guys and all that stuff. So I kept coming back and kept wrestling the younger guys, and everything kept going good. And the promoter would call me up and say, it'd be a great idea. And I'd be like, what? And he says, if you came in one more time, had one more match,
one more.
And I'm like, man, at the time I was like, close to 45, and I was like slowing down and stuff like that. But I agreed anyway, because that's what you just do. And so I ended up wrestling a guy named Hollywood Adam Swayze in 2018, and ended up breaking my collarbone. And I was like, that's it. I'm done. Yeah. That's completely it. So I transitioned over into the world of commentary for wrestling, and I started off very shaky with that. But however, I've worked with a lot of great commentary partners and ended up excelling in that. And I'm currently working for 2 promotions, doing commentary for both of those. And I'm also getting a lot of interest from other promotions as well, out of state and then also in the state as well. So hopefully I can keep going on with that for, several years. So it's a good thing for me.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, one of the questions, and I always wondered in the back of my head, is this real? Is it choreographed? But when you break bones, that's real.
Yeah. Well, you always get that question, and in 2025, it's kind of common knowledge, what the deal is, so, there's a lot of showmanship involved, but there is a lot of athleticism involved. And, pretty much Google in 5 minutes, you can find out anything you want to know about wrestling, so Yeah, but there's been lots of times that I've been in the ring and I've just been, hurting. Like I used to do this thing where I would slam a guy on the concrete on the outside, and we always never had any mats on the outside back in the day. I'd slam the guy, get him down, and then I'd climb up onto the ring apron, which is like the little 2-foot section from the ropes to the edge of the ring. And I would run down the rope or run down the apron, and I would jump off, and I would drop an elbow on the guy on the floor. And it looked great. The guy that I was landing on and everything, they'd swear up and down I killed him. But honestly, it hurt me more than it hurt them, because I noticed that every time I would do it, it'd take a little bit longer to get up each time.
Sure.
So I didn't do it, one night. And then the crowd was like, where's the elbow? Where's the elbow? We want to see the elbow. So I had to keep doing the elbow every time I wrestled. And so, yeah, I'm 51 years old now. I'll be 52 this year, but I feel like I'm 102 because of some of the stuff I've done in the ring. I've done some stupid stuff in the wrestling business, but still. Yeah, Amanda says she calls it an athletic soap opera with real pain in it. She's absolutely right.
Yeah, I can see that. Now we've had some UFC people on here. I don't know if you're familiar with any of that. We had Miranda Maverick on, and she's like ranked number 15th in the world or whatever, US. And of course, that's real. I mean, because they're punching each other. And one of the first things she said to me, she says, I think everybody at some point in time in their life needs to be punched in the face. And I was like, what? She goes, no, that way you realize what true pain is. And she says, then I think you need to be able to punch somebody in the face. So I was like, I'm on board with that. So, but
I've done both of those. I've been punched in the face and I've punched people in the face. Things went a little awry in the ring sometimes. You get in there with, we call them greenhorns, that they haven't been around very long. You still might be in some training or something like that. And then, you try to compose yourself the entire time to, lead them through the match, to have a great match for the paying crowd. But sometimes, they just don't listen, and you have to teach them, if you know what I mean.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, things can get very real in there very quickly.
Sure.
So, and I apologize. I'm holding my phone, so I don't have a computer that works correctly and all that. So I'm trying to keep it as still as possible.
You are good. You're great. Your audio is great. Your video is great. Yeah, you're doing great. Yeah, I grew up watching wrestling. And I think it's like comic books there for a while. You pick it up, you put it down, you pick it up, you put it down. And I haven't gotten back into it in a long time, but I remember as a paramedic here in Knoxville, actually the mayor, Glenn Jacobs, is Kane, the big red retard. Can't say that anymore. But, that big tall red guy. I met him in person. He was coming out of a children's hospital, and he was in all of his stuff after having visited the kids, in the children's hospital. And I'm looking up to this guy, and I'm going, holy shit, this guy is huge. Kindest, gentlest man. I mean, you know what I'm saying? It was like two different personas. So yeah, I get it. And actually, he's a great mayor here in Knoxville. So that I don't know if you know anything about him, but I've followed it on and off. But now they're putting it on Netflix, and you got to pay to see it. I don't know that I want to do that. So
the first time it was on Netflix, it was great, but then after that, it's kind of been So. But I mean, I've loved it ever since I was little. I think I started watching around 4 years old, like in 1977, and I'm 51 now, and I'm still watching it. And I'm just as big a fan as I've always been. So it's definitely not what it used to be. To me, it used to be more about the storytelling and engaging the crowd and the audience and all that stuff. And now it's more about, like the fast paced matches and, the oohs and the ahs and all that stuff. But I also think too that, the moves, But I think that nowadays they do a little too much in the ring, that they don't let the crowd breathe and take everything in. So it almost kind of sounds like they're much quieter than now in the crowd than the crowds used to be. The crowds used to explode over the smallest thing, and it was great.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, now, so much going on and everything, the people don't have time to react.
No, well, I'm sure you remember when MTV came along and it just blew up. I remember watching that and I was like, God, this is the greatest thing ever. So yeah. But you're right. It is almost like they've overstimulated them. To me.
Yeah.
So yeah, because they got the pyrotechnics, the lights, the smoke, the lasers, the everything. And you were talking about writing, and I've interviewed some comic book authors, and I've learned that some comic book authors have went from writing comic books to writing for wrestling. That it was like a natural transition for them. And I didn't know that, and I thought that was kind of the coolest thing.
Yeah, there's a guy named CM Punk now that wrestles now, and he actually, I think he did some Marvel comics or something like that several years back, and those did really well, sold really well.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and he's married to oh crap, I can see her face. She was the female
AJ Lee.
AJ Lee. She crazy is my superpower.
Yeah,
she had a great, and you'd swear that lady was crazy. She was big into the comic books too. So yeah.
Oh yeah.
If you got any connections, I would love to get one of those or both of those on. I'm a big fan of both of those, especially AJ, because she was a comic book geek growing up like I was. Yeah.
Unfortunately, I don't have those kind of connections. So
well, hey, you never know. You may one day. You may get moved up to the big leagues and be up there. Ross asked, was he born in Spain? Talking about Glenn Jacobs. I do not know the answer to that. I don't think so because he's eligible to be on political tickets. I don't know. I'd have to do some homework. I'm not going to comment one way or the other because I don't know. But so, what got you into doing this, Bobby? I mean, was it just growing up watching it and loving it, and you just one day you were like, I got to do it?
Well, like I said, I started. I'm in Kentucky. So like a lot of people that are my age that grew up watching wrestling in Kentucky, we had like Channel 18, and there was wrestling on there, but it came out of Memphis, Tennessee. And it was the CWA, which later became the USWA with Jerry the King Lawler. And I got Jerry the Lawler shirt right now.
Oh, yeah.
And Superstar Bill Dundee, guys like that and everything. So I grew up, I was flipping channels one day, or my dad was flipping channels, I should say, actually. And he stopped on wrestling and watched it. And I was just kind of glued to it. Jerry the King Lawler came out and he started punching Bill Dundee in the face and all this and all that. So I loved that, and I started watching that, every time it was on. And then I got a little bit older, and I came across a guy on the Superstation, WTBS, named Roddy Piper.
Oh, love him.
My favorite of all time. And he really caught my attention. He was the loudmouth guy. He could be the chicken if he needed to be, back off and when he need to, but he could also back it up in the ring. So he not only talked the trash, he backed it up as well. And Piper was the first guy that actually caught my attention and kept it and kept it and kept it. So I always gravitated toward Piper because he was the loudmouth. B, he backed everything up. So Piper was my guy for years and years and years. And then the first WrestleMania was getting ready to happen, and they were showing it on closed circuit TV at the cinemas down here. My dad took me to the cinemas to go watch WrestleMania 1 on the big screen, and the main event of the show was Hulk Hogan teaming up with Mr. T against Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff and Roddy Piper.
Oh, Lord.
And yeah, it was an amazing match, great time. The cinema, the theater was sold out, And, we weren't sitting there watching like you do a movie and everything. People were cheering at, what was going on and everything. And I was the only person in the entire theater that was cheering Rowdy Roddy Piper. And I was wanting him to beat Hulk Hogan and Mr. T, and all that stuff and everything. And I was like, Mr. T's an actor. He shouldn't be in wrestling and blah, blah, blah. And, Hulk Hogan, big blonde idiot, blah, blah, blah. Rowdy Roddy Piper and Mr. Wonderful, they're going to kill them, so I'm cheering for them and everybody else is booing them and everything. And I just thought that Piper and Orndorff together were one of the best teams of all time. And when I saw Piper and Mr. T start scrapping in the ring, I was like, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to do. I want to be Rowdy Roddy Piper. I want to be like that. I want to be the loudmouth guy that never shuts up. And I want to be the guy that can back it up in the ring and everything. And I kind of ended up, stealing his style, a little bit and made it my own. So it worked for me. But Rowdy Roddy Piper, seeing him and his career in the first WrestleMania, especially, it was when I decided I wanted to get in the wrestling business.
Oh, wow.
And I did. Yeah.
That's funny. We were both watching that. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I remember that. That was great.
Yeah.
Roddy would get so wound up and his face was sweating and his hair was, and he'd be shaking the mic. Oh yeah, I loved him. So.
Oh yeah, very intense and very, very loud and crazy. Yeah, I love that guy.
I wonder if in real life if he was that way. Because like I said, I met Kane and like I was just like, oh, and then he's like, hey, how you doing?
Yeah. Well, see, I know a lot of people that I wrestled with a lot of people that wrestled him back in the day and everything, and they said that back in the 80s, 70s, and 80s and everything, that he was wound up and, a little out there. But they said, once he got older and everything, he was very, soft-spoken, very polite and all that. So I never got to meet the man, and he's been here in town for plenty of book sightings and stuff, and I never got to go to meet him. So all my buddies met him, but not me.
Oh, you need to go meet him.
I know. Well, I can't now.
Oh, that's right. He did pass away, didn't he?
Yeah, he passed away in 2015.
Has it been that
2015?
It was.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay, I was thinking it was like the past 2 years. Wow, I'm getting old.
Yeah, he's been gone a while.
Yeah. Well, I remember he got on. Oh, it was Rock and Roll Music. Do you remember that when he was like, "This is from the devil," and he had this great.
Yeah.
My famous line: MTV music to vomit by.
Yeah.
I still love that line. So
yeah, he slammed David Wolf, which was Cyndi Lauper's manager, and then he kicked Cyndi Lauper across the ring.
Yeah.
Oh, it was great. That was a great time to be a wrestling fan. The Rock and Wrestling Connection, man, that was my favorite ever era in all of wrestling.
Yep. Oh yeah, I agree. And of course, that rivalry between him and Hulk Hogan, it was epic. So I'm showing my age here, but it was epic. So I saw Hulk Hogan. He came out and did something for, what was it, a wrestling event, and he was booed. And people saying he's a sellout now because he sells beer and stuff.
Well, there's a lot more to that. It was the first Monday Night Raw that aired on Netflix.
That's correct. That's correct.
Yeah. The WWE had made a deal with Real American Beer, which is Hulk Hogan's beer company that he's got, his beer brand that he's got. So he comes out, and Real American, which was his theme music, was started playing, and I'm like, okay, he's coming out and everything, and he looks a lot older than he did last time I saw him on there. But he comes out, and then the crowd just immediately starts raining down boos on him. I mean, it's just boo after boo, and he can't even, everything he's saying, they booing him. And he brings up the Macho Man, Randy Savage, and they boo that. And he brings up Andre the Giant, and they boo that. And just like every single thing he's doing, they're booing. But, however, the reason that they're booing is they kind of found out, exactly what kind of a person he actually is in real life. And a lot of the stuff that he said back in the day came to light. and there's a lot of racist stuff, and so that kind of killed him with the wrestling crowd right there. They're gonna have him on Saturday night's main event this week, so I don't know what he's going to do. I don't know if he's going to be in front of a live crowd or what, or how they're going to react to him or not. So I guess that remains to be seen. But yeah, he got booed like crazy.
Yeah. I didn't realize, but yeah, he did say a lot of stuff. I thought it was because they were thinking he was a sellout, for.
Yeah,
I guess it could have been some of that too, but I mean, we all got to make a buck at some point. So, but yeah, you're right. What we say, especially in this well, not just this generation, but since we've started keeping track of things better, comes back to haunt you, I'll never be able to be a Supreme Court justice. I know it, but hey, I'm not a lawyer either. So what the hell, but I'd be a pretty good one though. I'd throw the gavel. Oh, never mind. I would probably do something like that. I'd get up there and go, "What are you here for?" Sometimes you do got to do something like your delivery. Just as a funny story, as a paramedic in paramedic school, we had to all take advanced cardiac life support, which is where you learn to give drugs, you shock the heart, you do all these things. Mm-hmm. I was young and we had to draw straws to see, because to get checked off at that time, we had to go in front of a board of cardiac doctors and surgeons. And as a kid, fresh out of paramedic school, it's terrifying because, they drill all this. If you do the wrong thing, your patient's going to die. And which they can, don't get me wrong, but they psych you up and they just terrify you. Well, we drew straws to see who was going to go first. Out of 26 people in my class, I was drawn, and I said, I'm not going first. I said, I promise you, I am not going first. You had 2 shots to pass. You had 2 shots. And I said, I'm not going first. I said, you got to go. The instructor says you drew the number you're going. And I was sick to my stomach. I was like, wait a minute. I got this. I said I wasn't going to go first. I kicked the doors open to the classroom going in where they were sitting behind this table. I was pulling my gloves on and I yelled, "These hands have been touched by God." Big loud voice. And they were like, "Next." And I was like, "Told you I wasn't going first." I nailed it on the second round, but they were like, what did you do that for? And they were like, did somebody put you up to that? And I'm like, no, I was terrified to go first. So I was good. I kicked the doors open. These hands have been touched by God. And they're like, "Next."
That's great.
It was one of my best moments. So
yeah, you talked about, having charisma and stuff like that. And that came into play into my career a lot and very early on. When I first started and everything, I was a shy kid and everything. And I'm not very big. I'm like 5'8" on a good day, and back then I weighed right around 200 pounds. So I'm a lot fatter than that now, and a lot older than that now. But anyway, I was very shy, very introverted. I would come out to the ring and I'd be so scared looking, and you could tell it on the old videotapes because I used to film everything. And, I'd come to the ring and I'd go and I'd do my match, and I'd never yell at the crowd. I'd never do anything in the crowd. And I was a bad guy, good portion of my career, a heel. And, but however, though, I was scared looking. Looked like I was terrified all the time. And then I realized that I'm not getting anywhere by doing this. And I was, when we first get in the wrestling business, our goal, everybody's goal, is to one day main event WrestleMania, go to the WWF, WWE, whatever you want to call it. And, main event WrestleMania. Well, I realized that I was never going to do that because I'm a lot smaller than everybody else. So I had to do something to make myself stand out. Then I realized I had this. And I didn't realize that I could talk really well in wrestling. I can't talk in my real life, and I stutter, and I lose my train of thought all the time. However, when I get in front of a crowd at a wrestling show, I'm yak, 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 yak. But I didn't realize that I could cut one heck of a promo. until a microphone was shoved in my face one time, and the promoter said, "Well, sink or swim," and I swam. And I went on and on and on and on and on for like 10 minutes. Never repeated myself. Never took a breath. Just kept going and kept going and kept going. And I made that my strength, talking and yelling at the crowd and, getting on the people and, stuff like that. So that was my strength. That was my angle. That was the way I was going to go. I was going to be the loudmouth like Roddy Piper. I know I could back it up in the ring, but that's what I needed was that little, extra, oomph, and that was my talking ability. And like I said, for some reason, I can't put together 2 sentences without stuttering in real life. But in wrestling, I can talk for 30 minutes straight, never repeat myself, never stumble, never stutter, nothing. So that's my strength, and I played to that.
That's your superpower.
Yeah, exactly. That's my superpower.
That's
and
awesome.
Yeah, and my matches were just kind of but I made you believe that I was better than I actually was. I made the people believe that the match I had was just great. Was great, and I was able to talk to the people, and kind of like almost like Mr. Anthony was talking about. Suggesting to the people. I suggested to these people that I was that I was actually good, and they believed it for some reason. So.
How the hell do you think I do this? Let me catch up the comments here real quick. Ross says that I can't pronounce that, but it was Spain. I did not know that. So he can't run for president. Dang it. Amanda says that she wanted to be Cyndi Lauper.
Yeah.
Wow. Let's see here. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on there, Ross. You had another one here. You said a rumor was, and he's talking about Hulk, was because he supported Trump. That was a thing too. Yeah, he is a big Trump supporter. There is that. He's a little old to be ripping that shirt off, though.
He's still in better shape than I am today, though.
Oh, he could probably whoop my ass. And he says, if Piper was your mentor, what kept you from being like him earlier on? I guess he's asking what made that switch flip. Yeah.
I got to watching Piper stuff, and I'm exclusively watching Piper and watching how he moved and how he talked and all that stuff and the charisma that he had. And for some reason, the introvertedness that I had when I was younger, that was predominant and that overtook my personality. When the switch flipped, my real personality came out. There's a difference between Bobby Blade, Lone Wolf Bobby Blade, and Steve Smith, which is my real name. So, and I know Amanda, she was like going back and forth whether she called me Steve or Bobby, so yeah, either one's fine. But anyway, there's a difference between those two people, and I can turn it on and I can turn it off just about any time, So I wish I could have been more like Piper from the get-go, but like I said, it was just getting used to everything, getting experience under my belt and all that. Once I got more experience, I was able to flip the switch and I was able to keep the two personalities separate. So a lot of people, when they flip that switch, they don't know how to flip it back off, so. True.
Now, in addition to, you have to go to, I guess, is there a school for it? You have to train. You can't just one day jump in there and go. Even football players, baseball players, they have to train. You have to train to do that stuff. So,
yeah, there's several schools. There's a lot of schools actually. A lot of them are a little bit more accredited than others. Like I originally, when I first was going to get in, there's a wrestler who's legendary. His name was Handsome Jimmy Valiant. He's still alive, and he's actually still doing stuff at shows and all that stuff. But he runs a school in Shawsville, Virginia, and I was going to go there. Me and one of my buddies were going to go there. Well, then when I talked to another friend that was already in wrestling about go train with Jimmy Valiant, he was like, well, don't go do that. my brother-in-law, he wrestled, and then his brother-in-law wrestled as well. And he says, my brother-in-law's training people. Let me just get in contact with him. And then he ended up calling me, and that guy's name was Mr. Irresistible Terry Embry. So I trained under him one-on-one for a little while. And then I had my first match after 3 months of training, and which was way too soon, because a lot of people, train for like a year or two before they ever have their first match. But somebody didn't show up that night at that show that I was at. So I had to take their place. So I wrestled for the next 3 years for Terry Embry and groups that he worked for, and like around the states, the surrounding states of Kentucky. And then I went to work for a guy named Dale TNT Mann in 1994. And when I say work, I mean wrestle. Dale Mann is a very well-known figure in wrestling in the state of Kentucky. He's legendary. He's one of the top names from Kentucky, and great promoter and stuff. So I went and had a tryout match with him. He liked me. He offered to retrain me because he saw, that I wasn't very good at the time and needed a lot of extra training. So he retrained me from the start. So Dale Mann trained me the right way, and everything's been great ever since. I trained a long time for him. Then I eventually started working his shows, and we were all over the state. We were out of the state and all that stuff. We had a great schedule back then, man. It was in the summertime, spring and summer, we would wrestle 5 nights a week. And then in the fall and the winter, we cut down to 4 nights a week. So, we would go out and we wrestle these shows, and we'd stay in a hotel, or we'd stay in the ring truck, that carries the ring to the different towns. Or, we'd go in, halves on room. There'd be 56 guys in one room, all splitting the bill. And it was great. Then, the MWA, which is the Mountain Wrestling Association, it used to be called the Mid-Continental Wrestling Association. It switched owners in 95, and a guy named Fabulous Danny Fargo bought it from Dale TNT Mann. Danny Fargo took it over, and he dropped a day off of each of the schedules. Like in the spring and summer, instead of 5 days a week, we'd wrestle 4 days a week. And then in the fall and the winter, we went down to 3 days a week. So, and that was great. And then he sold it in, it was either 99 or 2000. I think it was 2000, to a guy named Dirty Chris Hayes. And then it settled into a regular independent wrestling organization schedule, which was basically 1-2 times a week. Then eventually it got to once a month, and then, and stuff like that. But however, when we weren't wrestling for that promotion, we'd go get bookings other places and everything. So we stayed busy. And the MWA is actually where I met Amanda at. I think she started in 2000. Correct me if I'm wrong, Amanda, but I think she started in 2000. And she was put with me to learn how to manage. And also she was wrestling, here and there and all that too and everything. However, Amanda's real growth is when she left the MWA and she started working other places and everything. I think she went to Alaska with Malia Hisaka, who is a legendary Japanese women's wrestler, and Jillian Hall as well. You did. Okay, you did start in 2000. Okay. But I worked with Amanda for quite a long time, and I would always, call her, her wrestling name was Siren. So I would go out to the ring and I'd introduce Siren, and here she'd come, and she'd come out, and the people hated her, and they hated me, and they hated her because they hated me, and they hated me because they hated her. So we just guilty by association, being together out there. And we worked great together. And there was, she wants me to tell this story. Yes, we did have so much fun, Amanda. She wants me to tell this story. And she says, you've got to tell this story when you go on there. And I'm like, what is it? And she says, hardcore match we had in Mount Sterling. So there's a group called Showtime Championship Wrestling, and me and Amanda we were doing something, and it led up to a hardcore match against a guy named Tuffy and a woman named Tammy B. So it's man and woman versus man and woman, and anything goes. So let me preface this by saying that I was sick this day.
Oh no.
Okay. Yeah, it gets worse. I was very sick, but when you're in the wrestling business, sick or not, you still go out and perform. Because the thing is, if you don't perform, somebody's going to take your spot, and it might be a permanent thing. So sick or not, you go out and you perform. So I'm sick, and I go out and I do this hardcore match. And there's a point near the end where Tuffy and Tammy B take this garbage can, a metal garbage can, and they stick it over my head. Okay. So it's going halfway down my body. I'm crunched in there like this to make sure that it, goes down pretty far. And they take baseball bats and start hitting the garbage can.
Oh my God.
So yeah, I'm in the garbage can and I can't see when these shots are coming. So all I know is they're hitting this garbage can and it's loud and it's scaring me to death. And then I hear Tuffy go, "Okay, here's the big one." And I knew that when he hit with the big one, I was going to take the bump, fall down and keep the garbage can on me. Well, what was going to happen then was Tammy B was going to go up to the top and she was going to come off with a big splash, which is, you just jump off the top and you just throw your entire body down onto the person that you're jumping on. But it's like your midsection, your chest and your stomach land on the person. She goes to jump off the top and she gets scared. And she puts her knees up and she drops onto the garbage can with my knees, or with her knees. The garbage can goes into my stomach.
Oh no.
And something comes out of my butt. and it's immediately gooey and smelly. And I'm just like, well, I'm not getting up. Go ahead and pin me. So they pin me. And I'm just like, okay, I got to get to the back. There's no shower in the building.
Oh no.
I'm a mess. It's everywhere. It's all over me.
Oh my God.
I go to the back. I see Amanda. She's like, "That was great." Yeah, it was great. And I said, "Yeah." And I didn't tell her what happened until later on. So I didn't realize that I had to go out for the next match too.
Oh, no.
Because the main event was two brothers in a boxing match. It was far beyond wrestling. They had to box. They had to have a boxing match. So I had to go out and be a corner man for one of the guys. So I'll go out there and I'm trying to stay turned away from the crowd as much as possible so they don't see any stains or anything like that. And so they have their boxing match and I can smell it. I can smell myself. I'm just like, oh gosh. So as soon as it ended, I went straight to the back and I went and I grabbed my bag. See y'all later. Y'all be safe, blah, blah, blah. I throw my bag in the car. I drive as fast. I threw down a towel in the car, in the seat so I could sit down. I drive to a rest area. I go in the rest area. I take my gear bag in there with me with all my gear and all that stuff and all my street clothes and all that. I pull my gear down and it's everywhere.
Oh no.
Pull my underwear off and it's just a mess. I take the underwear, throw it in the floor, clean myself up, leave the rest area. So whoever that poor employee was that worked at the rest area that night, I feel for them because they walked in there to a horrible situation, and it was so bad. The match was great until that point, but yeah, we had a lot of fun together, me and Amanda. We did a whipped cream match one time, and
Oh,
And the idiots that was running the show, they were so dumb that night. I love them to death, but they were so dumb that night because if you don't refrigerate whipped cream, it eventually spoils.
yeah.
So, and we were on main event. So by the time the whipped cream was put into the ring, it was spoiled and it stunk. So we're in the whipped cream and we're falling all around and it's splattering and it's going everywhere and everything like that. And it took both me and Amanda like 2 weeks to get the smell of the spoiled whipped cream out of our hair and off our bodies and out of our clothes and everything. It just, oh my gosh, it stunk so bad. It was horrible. Match was great. But yeah, the Cool Whip match, almost got sick after the Cool Whip match is what she said. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It was horrible. We had a lot of fun together and we were easily the most hated duo for quite a long time. The whole time we were together, those people hated us. And it was so much fun. I always had way more fun being hated than I ever did, being cheered. So much fun.
Yeah, you could be somebody you don't want to be. Yeah, that would be fun. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
You can, and like Mark was saying, you can plant that seed. You could make them think you're the biggest villain in the world. You're here to take your children and have all kinds of things. Yeah.
I was really good at being the bad guy for some reason. And, you never would have thought it, if you had met me before, like earlier in life, you had been like, okay, this is the nicest guy on the planet. There's no way he can be an evil, SOB. And then when I started becoming the evil SOB, I made sure I was the most evil of the evil. And it was great. I loved being a heel. I loved being a bad guy.
It gives you so much freedom. You don't
It
care
does.
what you
It
say.
does.
It comes up, comes out, or in your case, really comes out. So, but yeah. How were you not so embarrassed? Oh my gosh! So,
it was horrible.
Do you remember? I don't know if you follow baseball, but there was an Atlanta Braves player. They were in the playoffs, and he got up there and he was sick as a dog. Hit a home run, and he was running, and you could tell he wasn't running like
Yeah.
And he slid into home for like fun. Because it was the game-winning home run, and right as he slid into home base, he shit himself. And
oh, geez!
You could tell it wasn't the clay. It was. He immediately got up, and went straight to the locker room.
And that wasn't the only time that I did that to myself. That was like the second time. I've done it before.
Well, I've been a paramedic at a few boxing matches.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, that's a stinky, nasty sport. Because you punch somebody in the kidneys, they're going to pee. I'm sorry, they're going to pee.
The first time it happened to me was we were in Mount Olivet, Kentucky. And I was wrestling a guy named Johnny Bam Bam Reeves, who was another legendary, figure in wrestling here in Kentucky. And we did a thing where I'm up on the top rope and he's standing in the ring. When I jump off the top, he punches me to the gut, gets me bent over, hooks me up for a power bomb. You know what a power bomb is?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, he hooks me for a power bomb, gives me the power bomb, and then when he comes down with it, he held on to it. He comes down with it, and as soon as I hit the mat, I hear, and my butt was right in his face. My butt was right in his face. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. And he's like, oh, gosh.
I've asked somebody before, and I don't remember the answer. How high is the top rope?
From the ring mat or from the floor?
Yeah. From the ring.
From the ring, it's probably maybe, I don't know, 4 or 5 feet, maybe.
Okay. That's still
it's probably from the floor. The top rope's probably about 9-10 feet, something like that.
That's a lot of height to be jumping out of.
Yeah, and I used to jump off the top rope to the floor sometimes. And one time I did it, I used to do a flip. They call it a senton now, but back in my day, it was just called a flip. Flip off the top. I did a flip off the top to the floor and missed and hit the concrete, and I was like, I'll never do that again. and I didn't do that again. But I was very hurt. But my only thought in my mind was, I got to finish this match. I still got about 10 minutes to go. So.
Well, you're right. Well, I mean, like you said, somebody come up behind you and they're going to do their thing. Have you ever jumped down into the tables and broke up the tables? Have you ever done that?
Yeah. We did a match in, I don't remember where I was at, but I was wrestling a guy named Purple Haze, I think. And he had stacked 2 tables on top of each other. And I was on the rope. I stopped him. I was on the rope. He starts fighting back. He jumps up, gives me a Hurricane Rana off the top rope, which is, he jumps up, wraps his legs around my head, and then flips me off. And I went through both of the tables.
Oh God!
And I kept thinking, as soon as I hit and went through both of the tables, I was like, I am the stupidest person that's ever lived. I said, why did I agree to do this? I'm the dumbest person. I deserve to have the crap kicked out of me nightly for the rest of my life for agreeing to this.
It looks
I
like
never
fun.
did that
I
again.
will say that. Yeah, I will say it looks like fun. It makes, with the big crash and the stuff flying there, it looks like a lot of fun, but I don't know if I'd want to do it.
Well, the thing is, everybody says, oh, the tables are pre-cut, they're blah, blah. No.
I don't.
You just hit them. You hit them in the middle, and they collapse. So.
Yeah.
And they hurt a lot more than you think they do.
Oh, I can imagine. Ross says Mick Foley or Shane McMahon off the cage. Oh, the top of the cage jumping down. That's got to be 14 plus feet.
Oh yeah, on WWE it's actually more. I don't know how high they said it actually was. On WWE, like the Hell in a Cell. Hell in a Cell is like the biggest cage they got. So, but our cages are roughly about 10 feet, 10, 11 feet, something like that, independent wrestling, small promotions and stuff like that. So it's nowhere near the size of a WWE cage, but you jump off a cage and you land on the canvas, you're going to hurt yourself regardless, so.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's, you gotta be in great shape for one thing, but you gotta be a little nuts too to do it. Like you said, you're the stupidest man in the world. It goes through your mind. Yeah. It's the adrenaline, I'm sure,
Oh yeah. Jim Cornette's got a famous quote, and I'm just paraphrasing it here, but it's like he said, everybody in the wrestling business is crazy. Said either you come in and you're completely, crazy, or you're crazy because you've been in the wrestling business for so long. It either makes you crazy or you start crazy. One of the two. So
I can say, and you feed off the crowd too. Like you said, when you learn to flip the switch, you draw the energy, because I get it from my guests and from talking to people. I get it. Like having you paired up tonight with Mark was great, because he had the great positive energy coming out in your intro. You get that energy. It's a good feeling, and all 2 of my listeners are going to enjoy this show. So,
well, hopefully I was able to follow Mark up a little bit. I was listening to him talking and everything. I'm like, I should have went first, because how am I going to follow that?
I saw you backstage, and I thought about bringing you out while he was here, because sometimes I'll do that just to kind of see it. It's been some fun. We had a few weeks ago, we had an author and a filmmaker. He had done a film on Bigfoot, and she writes paranormal Westerns. And I just sat back and listened to him. It was like the greatest thing. I was having a blast. It's like they were talking to each other. So yeah, I thought about doing that, but if Amanda had been here, I might have done it. But I didn't. I knew you were kind of hesitant when she wasn't coming. I was like, we're gonna be fine. We're gonna have a lot of fun. So
this has been fun. So.
And I want you to come back, especially when Amanda's here, because I am sure you got some dirt to tell on her. I am sure.
I do.
So
I do.
We need that energy on the show. I need to get you to cut a promo for the show with that energy. Yeah, man. I'd like to know we come up with that, but that was great. So.
Well, I used to be a lot better on promos than I am now. But like I said, I can still somewhat do it, but not to the extent that I used to be able to do it.
Yeah.
Because I'm 14 concussions in, so I can be a little out there and rambling sometimes. So yeah. Most people, if they have a concussion at all, they only have like one, in their entire life, and I've had 14. So
yeah, well, you couldn't play quarterback in the NFL now, so because they're limiting them to like 6 or something, and they're like, you're retired. So, but yeah. But yeah, well, it's conditioning. You've put your body through hell, but you look to. From a person who's never met you before, you look like you're not putting that energy out. You're all with the good energy. So I love it. So
hopefully.
Well, but as you get older, as a firefighter, I'm falling through floors, had a roof fall on me. The stupid things we do earlier in life, I don't know if you remember me talking to Mark. I was like, I woke up and, oh God, what is that pain from?
Yeah, that's me, except that's been me for the last 30 some years. So,
well, I've interviewed some guys that retired and like way out retired, like, a couple 10 plus years. And they were talking about how it just takes them like an hour to get out of bed and they're so sore and stiff. And I'm like, well, do you regret it? And they're like, not one moment of my day.
Exactly. That's the thing now is I'm 51 years old. I haven't wrestled since 2018. I've beaten and broken my body, broken bones. I've bled everywhere. Anything that can happen to you has happened to me in wrestling. I've got into real fights. I've had my wrestle matches, and everything's went great. But, here I am at 51 years old, and I can barely walk sometimes. My back is always killing me. My shoulders, I got 2 torn rotator cuffs in both shoulders. And broken collarbone in 2018, broken ankle. Let's see. Let me start from the bottom and go up. I broke my left ankle, rolled my right ankle, blown out both of my knees. I'm due for a complete knee replacement. My right hip needs a hip replacement because of where I used to do the elbow off of the ring apron to the floor. I almost broke my back in 96. I didn't, though, thank goodness. I got bone chips in both of my elbows. I've torn both rotator cuffs, broken my collarbone. I've had 14 concussions. I've had hair ripped out of my head by people in the crowd. I've been burned by lit cigarettes on the way to and from the ring. Yeah. Like when they used to allow smoking in the buildings, like I would be so hated that people would have their cigarettes and they just stick them on you. They just burn you. Yeah. I've had police escorts out of town. I've had, I've had the cops called on me. Yeah, somebody said I spit on somebody one night, and they called the cops on me, and I didn't. They spit on me. I've been in riots. Riots were a commonplace thing back in the 90s. So, and those were always fun. I mean, I know this sounds silly, but riots were always fun because you got to hit people in the crowd if they were coming at you. That was always a great time. But
that's great.
Yeah. And the thing is, you said something about you wouldn't change a thing, and all this stuff's happened to me, and I'm left with a beaten up, broken down body these days. But I also would not change a thing at all. I would do everything exactly the same. If I had to do anything over, I probably would have started sooner. I started when I was 17 years old. Yeah, I started when I was 17 years old, and I'm 51 now, and I'm still involved. So I put a lot of time in, but I would not change a thing at all.
And it's not like work. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's a passion. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
And well, I've been in riots too, but a little bit different perspective as a paramedic.
You know what kendo sticks are?
Yes.
Okay. We were in Jackson, Kentucky, and there was a guy named Tracy Smothers that's passed now. And Tracy Smothers was a great man. And Tracy turned heel. He turned bad guy that night, and this crowd was living, and they were ready to fight. Well, we had to get out of the dressing room to get out of the building to go to our cars, and then people weren't leaving. And so he handed me a kendo stick. He took a kendo stick. We stood back to back, and we're swinging kendo sticks at people, trying to work our way out of the building. And he said, I'm sorry this happened. I said, I'm having the time of my life. So we fought our way out of the building and finally got into the cars, and everything took off. It was great. You know, and you tell the younger kids these days that are in wrestling about all the riots and all that stuff, and they look at you like you got three heads. And I'm like, no, this stuff really happened, you know, because it's so different now than it used to be. You know,
well,
the people back then, there was a saying like the people still believed in Santa Claus.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we had back then, you know. So they would always buy what you were selling, and you know, they thought you were a legitimate awful person, you're the nicest person in the world, you know. So
yeah. Well, I grew up with a little bit of Smoky Mountain wrestling, so yeah. But even if some people hated, I don't know that ever would put a cigarette on somebody. Oh my gosh! But yeah, was a paramedic. I've been bit, had my hair cut, I've been shot at, I've been stabbed. You know, good times. So.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's kind of like we had a similar career. Except you got to actually beat the hell out of the other person. I was like, no. So,
that's great.
Only a few times if I had to tackle people and enjoyed it, but that's another story. Yeah. Bobby, it really has been fun. I'm glad that you were able to come on. And I wish Amanda had been here. But now I got a reason to bring you back because we got to get some dirt on her. She's got some fans on the show that just adore her. So we got to talk her up a little bit. So
she's got fans.
I think like 2. So,
oh man,
we should have you on. You could get some fans, yeah. So, sometimes our chat gets a little carried away, and I'm like, can you handle it? Because sometimes the guys will come up with some things, and I'm like, I'm not putting that on the screen, but if you know, you can kind of read them if on the side there. So, yeah. She's a champ. She takes it well, but I love her to death. You know, one thing I had her on. She was actually a guest, and I don't even remember how I met her. I think I just introduced myself and said, "Hey, I got this stupid show. You want to come on it?" And we've been friends ever since. Yeah. But yeah, she's been great. I can't get rid of her. I don't want to get rid of her. So I love her to death. So. And one thing I got to ask you before I let you get out of here, I ask all my guests this. Have you ever had any type of paranormal cryptid experience, seen Bigfoot or anything?
Not really cryptid, but yeah, definitely paranormal. Yeah, you want me to go into detail about it, or?
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
In 2005, my grandfather passed away. And after that was after he was buried and all that, I lived in a little ratty apartment. Amanda's been there; she's seen it. It was ratty, but anyway, I had these candles were set. There was like 4 candles sitting on the coffee table, and then there was no air movement. And then all of a sudden, the candle on the left started flickering, and then it would stop, and then the next candle would flicker, and then it would stop. The next candle flicker, and it did that, and then it did it in reverse. And that was so weird. And then I tried to lay down that night. And at the time I was so upset. I wasn't even going to bed. I was just laying on the couch and all that stuff. And I had like a little blanket over me, and I'm laying there, and I would have these dreams where I would dream that at my grandfather's funeral, and he was in the casket, and there was a long line of people to go up and see him and pay their respects. And the person would go up, and he'd raise up, and he'd hug him, and he'd be crying. And then the next person, he'd raise up, hug him, and he'd be crying. And it'd go on, so on and so forth and everything. And I would continue with this dream until it got to me. And then when I got up there, I would wake up, and I had the same exact dream like 2 or 3 times. And then finally, I had a dream one night where I was in his house, And I told my grandmother I was going to go to the bathroom. I go to the bathroom and I come out and he's standing, my grandfather's standing at the end of the hall. And I said, I'm sorry you died. And then I woke up real quick and I never dreamed about him ever again.
Wow.
And then too, there was a night, this is while all this stuff was going on with my grandfather. I was laying on the couch and I had the blanket pulled up, probably about like right. Well, let's see. I've got my stuff in the way here. Oh, no, I don't want to exit. Sorry. I'm stupid. I'm very non-technological, but I had my blanket pulled up to like right here, about midway. And as I'm laying there and I'm awake and I know that I'm awake, I'm laying there and then all of a sudden this blanket starts moving up my arm. And I sat up and I said, oh, you need to get out of here. And that was it. Nothing else ever happened. But I know I was awake for that. There's been, like, my mom passed away in 2012, and I was living in a house. It was a pretty big house. And I remember laying on the couch in there and feeling like somebody was in the doorway. And I heard my mom go, call my name in a real eerie voice, and it was her voice. And then I sat up and I was just like, there's nobody here. And then it never happened again. Now, the latest paranormal thing I had was my father died last year in June. And I have an Alexa, and she just heard me. But, okay. She just went off. But anyway, I'm laying on the couch and I'm kind of half in and half out of sleep. So I'm not sure if this was a dream or not. But I was very upset and I was laying on the couch. I'm half in and half out of sleep. And then all of a sudden I hear Alexa come on, and in the Alexa voice, she says, don't worry, I'm okay. And then I sat straight up. And that was the last thing that's the last paranormal thing that's happened to me. But it was so creepy. I couldn't get back to sleep. Like I said, I don't know if I was awake, if I was asleep, because I was half in, half out. So I don't know. But I know that was very alarming.
I would say so. Yeah. In that voice too. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It said, don't worry, I'm okay.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Yeah.
Well, Amanda also does a show on Monday night called Two Broke Witches, and her co-host is a psychic. You should hop on there one night and ask her.
Okay.
Maybe give you some insight on that. Yeah, but that's that voice. Yeah, that would get me. So
yeah.
Well, Bobby,
and like I said, that happened about a month after he passed. So
I can't imagine. Yeah, that would be the creepiness. Yeah, it's like AI speaking. Like AI reads your text or something. There's no. I don't know. There's no. It's just words. It's just a tone. Yeah. Ooh, yeah. That would be creepy.
Oh yeah.
Well, Bobby, please come back. And
I'd love to. I had a great time.
It was fun. Great energy, great stories. And like I said, we got to get some dirt on Amanda. If anybody wants to find you, where can they find you? And what are you doing now?
Okay. If you want to find me on social media, you can send me a friend request on Facebook. Just look Bobby Blade. I've usually got some kind of silly looking picture of myself up there. If you send me a friend request on Facebook, send me a message telling me that you heard me on the podcast, because if I don't know the name, I'm probably going to deny it. You can also follow me on Instagram. I'm NDX Blade over there. It's all capital letters, NDX Blade. You can find me on Twitter or X at Old School Icon, all one word. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel. Can I plug that?
Oh, absolutely. Please.
Okay. Just search for Lone Wolf Bobby Blade. I've got a lot of complete wrestling shows from the 90s and the 2000s from around the area and stuff like that I've been involved in. You can go check those out. Every subscription is appreciated. It's free. You know, you might find something you like, you might not. You know, but please go check it out. And I'm on TikTok at Bobby Blade. I only have like 7 videos on there though, because I'm very lazy. So
Well, TikTok's a lot of work. So
yeah. Let's see. I'm currently doing commentary for 2 different promotions. I work for the Elite Wrestling Alliance. We run in Danville and other places as well. And then also too, you can see me on February the 7th at Generation Next Pro Wrestling in Cynthiana, Kentucky at the City Hall Gym for the Generational Invitational Tournament. And that's going to be a great night there. I do commentary. We put it out on High Spots TV. The Elite Wrestling Alliance shows are filmed for YouTube, so all those are going up on their YouTube channel. So yeah, it's a great time. Like I said earlier in the night, I'm getting interest from a lot of other promotions, so I might be spreading my branches out a little bit more too, and it's pretty cool to do at 51 years old. 34 years in the business. So,
oh heck yeah! So, yeah, we've got another. I call him. He's my paranormal attorney. He's a huge wrestling fan, and I don't know if he was able to tune in. He'll watch this on Rewind. He might have had to have gone to bed tonight. He lives up in the Northeast. He might want to have you come on his show some night, and he's a lot of fun. Jeff Lipman. So yeah, look for that. And he actually is looking to have somebody help him co-host some of the stuff. So if you're ever interested in that, we have him on here doing that. I've had a couple wrestlers that he sent me. We had a young lady that she got one match in where the women come out? Is it WWE? No, they have a special, whatever it is. She had one match and they sent her back. They fired her. And she agreed to come on. Well, actually, I think he paid her. But anyhow, she was where I learned that she had to go to acting school and school to learn the moves. And she completely failed the acting part. We've had a couple on that were great, and check Jeff out. Yeah, he might have you on. So
okay.
And I want you to come back and tell dirt on Amanda. So that's promise me you'll do that. So
oh yeah, you got my promise, man. Now I've forgot a lot of stuff over the years, so I might have to sit back and think for a while. So
hell, make it up. It'll be okay. Bobby, and if you ever want to do a promo for our page, let me know. I'd love it. You got some great energy. So
I appreciate that, man.
I really you're awesome. So thank you for coming on, and thanks for one thing I do want to tell you, and you may not ever hear this, even though sometimes you're the bad guy, you cheer up a lot of kids. There's a lot of kids out there that have listened to and heard you and think that's just the coolest thing ever. So whether you're not, you help a lot of people out, and that's always a lot of fun. So
that's awesome. That makes me feel good. So,
hey, you're a blessed man to have gone through all those injuries and still be sitting here and laughing about it. So.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
All right, Bobby, have a great evening. Come back and see us, and we'll as Amanda says, no, you're not going to talk trash about her. Yeah.
Oh, but I will.
I have a button here. I can put her out of the studio. I wouldn't do that to her. I love her. So, Bobby, have a great night. Thank you for coming on, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you for having me very much. This was a great time.
It was a blast, Bobby. Thanks. Have a great night.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
All right, bye-bye. Oh, well, I did this without my ladies tonight. Amanda, I miss you. Love you. I hope everything gets better for you. Everybody send out some thoughts and prayers, positive thoughts for Amanda. She needs them at the moment. And Cheyenne, I understand that you have gotten yourself out of the snowbank and are safely home. So that's good news. So I'm glad to hear that. Aaron, keep telling those cops where to go tonight. We appreciate it. I saw you jump in the chat there. Thank you. Thank you to all the people in the chat. It was a great chat tonight. We had a great viewer base, and you'll be back. We get some things you got to take care of, and we want you to. So we love you, and go take care of family things. But we are happy that we're on the Bigfoot Radio Network 3 nights a week. I will edit this. It'll take me some editing to get this down to an hour for radio. But we'll get on the Bigfoot Radio Network. This will also be on WRFN, Radio Free Nashville. Make sure to tune in Friday, Saturday night and support them. Or Friday night. Oh, good Lord. And once again, Ross was in the chat. Thank you, Ross. We appreciate you for allowing us on Yergs and Rainbow Radio. He replays us on tape delay over there. Go over there and check it out. And if you're into politics, he's got some great shows. I'm not sure the exact hours. I think it's like 11 to 2 or something like that. His schedule's on yergsradio.com. And give him a listen and a follow out, a shout, and all that good stuff. We appreciate him. Everybody have a great night. Thank you for tuning in. I'm sorry I didn't have my beautiful ladies here tonight, but hey, we managed to do it. A couple hairy guys and an Aussie, so we got it done. Thanks to everybody. Come back and see us next week. Let me see real quick before I go who I have lined up for next week. Let me pull it up here real quick. Next week is the 29th, and I have Julie Holiday. She's a parapsychology demonologist, clairvoyant. And I have Robin Hayes, which she's an expert on ETs and cryptids. So it's going to be a great paranormal show next week. So we'll look forward to that. I'm not sure yet. We're still trying to get realigned on the Misfits. I'm not sure if we will have a show Saturday or not. So I apologize to all of our fans about that, but we've had to move some things around, and obviously I'm up here in Knoxville, so it hasn't exactly worked out, but we'll get back on track and get back on the schedule. Everybody, please remember to go like, follow, and share our stuff. We appreciate it. We're on Facebook. You can find our group, the Paranormal Guys, and catch up on all the news on what's going on with us there. That's usually where we put stuff out. And when I get back to Atlanta, I will pick up my 2:00 news show, and we will have it going. So that will be returning. It's a daily, kind of like just a little news show that I do. Nothing political, though. Nothing political. That's for Ross, not me. Everybody have a great night. We will soon. Sportcat is out of here, and I will see you soon. Thanks for everything. Remember to hit that thumbs up button. It helps spread the word around.
Wonder.